Hello, this is Travis Powell, and this is my EDL 850 case study, Internet Use Violations regarding ISLIC Standard Number 5. For Category 1, what do I know? I know that Roosevelt High School, RHS, is a prestigious school in an affluent area of a large city. Students are from professional families. The principal for the past 9 years, Dr. Forbes, he has been a very successful principal at Roosevelt High School. Miss Cindy Walker is a second-year teacher at RHS. She teaches upper-level science classes with very rigorous and demanding outcomes for her students. Dr. Forbes has been working with Ms. Walker to reduce student stress and increase positive interactions with students. And the last thing that I know is a student has created a website that speaks ill of Ms. Walker personally and professionally. Ms. Walker feels that the website post is life-threatening and blames the incident on Randy Franks, a student in one of her classes. What I need to know: first thing is, was a website created with a school computer? Was the email sent from a school computer? Or did anything that occurred, was it done on campus or during the school day? Second thing is, did the website create a disruption to the education process or violate school policy or rules? What policy or policies does the school have in place that was or were violated? Are the policies only mandated for lewd speech on campus or off campus as well? And the last thing is, was there a legitimate threat to Miss Walker's life in the phrase, "Who wants Miss Walker to disappear?" Or was it just prank behavior by the student or students involved? In identifying the problem, an unknown student or group of students has created a website using vulgar language about a teacher, as well as criticizing her teaching, and also includes the possibility of a personal threat against the teacher. Category 2, my proposed plan of action with strategies. The first step in my plan of action is communication. After speaking with Ms. Walker on Sunday afternoon, I will call my superintendent and report to him what I know. I will also communicate to my staff with a brief description of what happened so that they can appropriately report disruptions or information to help determine who created the email and webpage. I will not necessarily let the staff know who the teacher was, or they will not know the suspect that we are going to start with questioning. The second important strategy I will use is thorough documentation. This started from the time the incident was reported, as I made hard copies of the email and website content. My documentation will include any violations to existing policy and disruptions to our education process during classes and the school day. Teachers need to understand the importance of reporting this information, whether policy is violated or not. If documentation is thorough, I'll have a better chance of proving our case that the educational process was disrupted as a result of this email or webpage. In researching other cases, schools that have weak policies with weak documentation that a disruption occur typically are not supported by the courts. Even with a weak policy, if you have strong documentation that a disruption in the education process occurred, the courts have upheld the school's decision to discipline, which is usually suspension of the student. The third strategy I will implement is a series of interviews with anyone considered necessary. This will begin with Randy Franks and then continue to his peers or any faculty or students that may overhear evidence as the day or week progresses. For Category 3, promoting the success of all students. I will promote the success of all students by acting with integrity, fairness, and in an ethical manner by first doing a thorough investigation of the situation and not jumping to conclusions by going after Randy Franks. I'll question Randy to begin with, but I will keep an open mind as I go through the investigation. I will not point the finger at him or any student until I have proper evidence and know that he or she is guilty. I'll promote the success of all students by acting with integrity, fairness, and in an ethical manner next by considering the potential moral and legal consequences of my decision making. I will make sure that I follow what my district policies say. I will carefully follow what the state and federal courts have decided in regards to students and their freedom of speech and freedom of expression. I will promote the success of all students by acting with integrity, fairness, and in an ethical manner lastly by holding students accountable for academic and social success. Although the task of disciplining a student will not be an enjoyable one, the students know that they will be treated fairly and are held accountable for not only their academic success but their social success. Students will understand the importance of upholding the morale of the school. Category 4, debriefing the problem, by reflecting 3 things that I was thinking as I read through this. The first thing I was thinking was, do we have policy in place that covers this type of action? If we don't, it may be tough to appropriately discipline the students or student. Another thing I was thinking was, we have to really document this scenario and be prepared to prove that there was a disruption to our educational process. And the final thing I was thinking is that I should contact my superintendent and let him know what has happened thus far. In debriefing the problem, by reflecting on what I was feeling, first thing I was feeling was pressure to make sure that I handled this scenario as best as possible. There's a good chance that those involved their families have strong social, political, cultural, community influence over the school. Another thing I was feeling was a little anxiety towards Miss Walker when she expressed fear and that she felt someone may want to have her killed, especially when I was on the phone with her, had not seen the email, had not reviewed the website content yet. But as I did those things, in the end I felt it was important when I called Miss Walker back to keep calm and rationally think through the situation in order to help Miss Walker remain calm and give her some comfort as well. I felt she didn't need to drive 3 hours back home to her parents' house that night, that evening, and then drive 3 more hours back to school early the next morning. Category 4, debrief the problem by what I was valuing. The first thing I was valuing was the integrity of Miss Walker. I'm genuinely concerned about her being attacked personally, professionally, and emotionally. As her administrator and just building a relationship with an employee, I felt that it was important to value that relationship and needing to be there to back her and give her support and comfort. The second thing I was valuing was not blindly going after Randy Franks, as I have mentioned before. I do have to respect his rights as a student and not charge him with being guilty until I can investigate further. And I also know that by not respecting him as a student and as a person, that his parents are likely to become upset and feel disrespected as well. And the last thing I was valuing was how I could handle this situation with integrity and in a fair and ethical manner. We know that the students come from affluent families, and chances are they may try and use their influences to persuade me and the final decisions that I make regarding their students' discipline. Unresolved or open for further investigation from Category 4. I still need to know what policies we have regarding freedom of speech or expression by my students. If we do not have a strong social media, internet policy, then it's time to get one. The policy needs to explain the disruptive impact of inappropriate internet postings on the morale of the school. It needs to include precise language, prohibiting profane, lewd, indecent, sexually explicit, or defamatory language directed to school personnel or other students. The policy also needs to prohibit derogatory comments designed to harass or bully students or school personnel. Second thing is, obviously the entire investigation is unresolved. I need to know if this took place completely absent of school property and school time. If it took place on school property and or school time, it would be easier to discipline under the court of law. If it did not, then our staff will have to do a good job of documenting substantial disruption, as I discussed earlier from other court cases and what they have or haven't supported. Lastly, another issue that's unresolved is that I need to determine what students did this and what punishment I can give them based on prior cases and the interpretations of the law and what I feel is fair and just for this situation. It obviously wasn't right to say the things they said about the teacher. Also, if there was a school disruption, then that student will receive some sort of suspension from school. Reflecting on, for Category 5, reflecting on ISLIC Standard 5, providing evidence. I, as a building level administrator, consistently demonstrated a clear and compelling sense of integrity and ethical behavior that serves as a model for all members of the school community By my communication, I promptly got back in touch with Ms. Walker after viewing the email and webpage. Tried to comfort her, calm her. I then contacted the superintendent to inform him of what was transpiring. I also communicated to teachers only the facts they needed to know, and asked them to keep me informed of any disruption that was being caused by the webpage. They did not know the staff member involved. They did not know the students that were being questioned. Also felt like I consistently demonstrated a clear and compelling sense of integrity and ethical behavior. It serves as a model by referring to district policy. I follow district policy in regards to students and their freedom of expression on and off campus and how it affects the school. Continuing my reflection on Standard 5, as a building level administrator, consistently and genuinely treats all stakeholders fairly, vigorously expects ethical behavior, is willing to confront those who fail to meet this expectation by doing a thorough investigation. I did not blindly pin this on Randy Franks, as I've said before. Even though Ms. Walker strongly accused him, I will interview him, other students, staff, and recruit the help of our district technologist. I also felt like I was consistent in treating stakeholders fairly and expect ethical behavior, and willing to confront those who fail to meet this by staying committed to enforcing district policy. Students know that if they violate policy, then there will be consequences, no matter who you are, who your parents are. Students know I want them to achieve academically as well as socially while upholding the morale of the school. As a building level administrator, I model personal and professional code of ethics that are clearly reflected in the behaviors and values of the staff and students in the teaching and learning process by protecting the rights of my students and staff. In my communication with staff, I made sure that they knew basic information, basic facts, did not reveal the staff member involved or the student in question, as I mentioned before. I model personal and professional codes of ethics by bringing my personal principles in the decision-making process. I'll make sure that students involved receive the appropriate punishment based on district policy, and will not bow to pressure that some parents may try to put on me to look the other way. And that concludes my case study reflection for EDL 850, Internet Use Violations for ISLIC Standard number 5. Thank you.